A man kneels on a tapestry of spilled blood and shattered power, clutching the limp body of his only son, as if by sheer force of desperation he could pull him back into the world of the living. His eyes are wide, wild, uncomprehending. He has crossed a line from which there is no return. This is Ilya Repin's Ivan the Terrible, and his son, Ivan, completed in 1885, a painting so charged with psychological violence that it still feels dangerous to look at. It does not simply illustrate a historical tragedy, it traps the viewer inside the instant when absolute authority twists into absolute horror. The scene Repin recreates stems from an event said to have occurred in 1581, when Tsar Ivan IV, remembered as Ivan the Terrible, struck his heir, Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich, during a furious quarrel. The prince would die shortly afterward. Legends surrounding the tragedy depicted point to a volatile mixture of political tension and personal fury. One account claims that the conflict erupted after Tsarevich Ivan criticized his father's disastrous handling of the Livonian War, a rare act of defiance that allegedly ignited the Tsar's rage. Another, even more dramatic version centers on the Tsar's assault on the Tsarevich's pregnant wife, whom Ivan IV reportedly deemed unfit to bear the future heir. Enraged by the attack on his wife and unborn child, the son confronted his father, and the argument spiraled into violence. Though the exact sequence of events remains shrouded in historical uncertainty, viewers may find it interesting that Repin chooses the moment just after Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich's fate has been sealed. The second the rage drains from the father, and he understands what his hands have done, the second the ruler ceases to be a Tsar and becomes simply a man grieving the life he has taken. By 1885, Ilya Yefimovich Repin had established himself as the leading figure of Russian realism and a key member of the Wanderers, Peredvizhniki, a group of artists who rejected the academic establishment to bring art directly to the people through traveling exhibitions. At 41, Repin was at the height of his creative powers, having already produced masterpieces like Barge Haulers on the Volga and Religious Procession in Kursk province. He had spent time in Paris absorbing impressionist techniques while maintaining his commitment to Russian subjects and social commentary. During this period, Repin lived in St. Petersburg, deeply embedded in the city's intellectual circles. He frequented gatherings where artists, writers, and thinkers debated Russia's future, the nature of power, and the country's turbulent history. The composer Modest Mussorgsky and the writer Leo Tolstoy numbered among his friends and subjects over the years. Repin was a man consumed by his work, often spending months perfecting a single painting, driven by an almost obsessive need to capture psychological truth on canvas. His wife, Vera, complained of his long absences in his studio, where he would work through the night, emerging haggard but fulfilled. The Russia of 1885 existed in a state of profound anxiety and transformation. Just 4 years earlier, in 1881, Tsar Alexander II, the reformer who had emancipated the serfs, was assassinated by revolutionary terrorists from the People's Will Organization. His son, Alexander III, ascended the throne and immediately reversed many of his father's progressive policies, implementing a period of intense reaction and repression. The new Tsar strengthened the secret police, imposed strict censorship, promoted Russian nationalism, and pursued aggressive Russification policies. The intelligentsia found itself caught between revolutionary fervor and state repression. Political dissidents were exiled to Siberia, universities were purged of liberal professors, and the press operated under constant surveillance. Yet beneath this repression, questions simmered. What was the nature of legitimate authority? Could violence ever be justified? What happened when absolute power corrupted absolutely? These were not merely historical questions, but immediate, dangerous concerns. In this context, Repin's decision to paint Ivan the Terrible takes on additional resonance. The painting served as a meditation on tyranny and its consequences, on the human cost of autocratic power. Though set in the 16th century, audiences in 1885 could hardly miss the contemporary implications. Russia had just witnessed the assassination of one Tsar and now lived under another, who ruled with an iron fist. The painting asked its viewers to contemplate the psychology of absolute rulers and the violence inherent in unchecked authority. Repin's compositional genius is immediately apparent in the painting's structure. The two figures form a tight, enclosed pyramid in the center of the canvas, isolated in a pool of light against the darkened background. This compositional choice emphasizes their isolation. There is no help coming, no possibility of reversal. The geometric stability of the pyramid contrasts cruelly with the emotional chaos of the scene. The Tsar's face, positioned slightly above his son's, dominates the painting's emotional center. Repin captures Ivan IV's expression with devastating precision. The whites of his eyes bulging in horror, his mouth slightly open as if gasping for air or crying out, his features contorted in a rictus of anguish that seems almost animalistic. This is not the face of a sovereign, but of a man confronting the unthinkable. His hand clutches the wound on his son's temple, as if trying to hold the life inside, to undo what cannot be undone. The Tsarevich's face, by contrast, presents a study in approaching death. His eyes gaze outward but seem to see nothing, already looking beyond this world. Blood streams from his temple and stains his golden robes, creating a horrific visual parallel between the precious fabric and the precious life being spilled. His body slumps in his father's arms with the weight of pure physical collapse, yet his hand reaches up to touch his father's arm, a gesture that critics have interpreted variously as forgiveness, supplication, or simple reflex. The blood itself becomes a crucial element of the composition. It pools on the ornate carpets, those symbols of wealth and power, staining them permanently. It soaks into the father's hands, marking him indelibly. Repin painted the blood with disturbing attention to detail, capturing its viscosity, its color variations from bright arterial red to darker, oxidizing tones. The art historian Vladimir Stasov noted that the blood seemed to have its own terrible life in the painting. The background, though darkened, contains significant symbolic elements. The overturned chair and scattered objects suggest the violence of the initial quarrel. The patterned carpets and rich fabrics speak to the luxury that surrounds absolute power. The architectural elements, barely visible in the gloom, hint at the isolation of the palace, where such horrors could occur behind closed doors. The diamond-patterned wall decoration has been interpreted by some critics as suggesting entrapment, a geometric cage surrounding these two figures. When the painting was first exhibited in 1885, it provoked intense reactions. The critic Vladimir Stasov, a champion of the Wanderers, praised it as Repin's masterpiece, writing that it captured the psychology of despotism with unprecedented power. He argued that Repin had revealed the essential tragedy of autocracy, that absolute power inevitably leads to irreversible destruction even of what the tyrant most loves. Other critics found the painting almost too powerful to bear. Some questioned whether such violence should be depicted in art at all. The level of psychological intensity disturbed viewers accustomed to more idealized historical paintings. This was not heroic history, but human tragedy painted with unflinching honesty. Symbolist critics and later art historians have noted the painting's exploration of time and irreversibility. The critic Dmitry Sarabyanov observed that Repin captures the moment when past and future collapse into an unbearable present. Everything before this moment, all the Tsar's power, all his accomplishments, all his plans, has become meaningless. Everything after this moment, succession, legacy, redemption, has been obliterated. Only this terrible now exists, frozen eternally on canvas. The painting has also been analyzed through the lens of Christian iconography, particularly its resemblance to Pietà imagery, the Virgin Mary holding the dead Christ. This parallel suggests both the universality of a parent's grief and, more subversively, casts the Tsar as a Mary figure, feminized by his anguish, his masculine power revealed as ultimately impotent against death. Some scholars have noted that this inversion of traditional power dynamics may have been one reason the painting proved so controversial among conservative viewers. The painting's controversial nature extended far beyond critical debates. In 1913, a religious fanatic named Abram Balashov attacked the painting with a knife, slashing it 3 times, including a cut across the Tsarevich's face. Balashov claimed he acted to defend the Tsar's honor. Repin, though elderly, participated in the painting's restoration, though the damage remained partially visible upon close examination. The controversy erupted again in modern times. In 2018, a man attacked the painting with a metal pole, causing significant damage to the canvas. The attacker claimed he acted because the painting distorted historical facts, reflecting ongoing debates about whether Ivan actually killed his son, with some Russian nationalist historians arguing that the event never occurred. The painting was subsequently removed from display for years of painstaking restoration, reopening debates about art, history, and national memory. These acts of violence against the painting ironically mirror the violence depicted within it, as if the psychological intensity Repin captured continues to provoke destructive impulses across centuries. The attacks also demonstrate how art that explores the dark side of Russian history remains controversial even today, particularly during periods when nationalism runs high and critical examination of power becomes politically fraught. Ivan the Terrible and his son. Ivan endures as a masterpiece precisely because it transcends its historical subject. While rooted in a specific event from Russian history, the painting speaks to universal themes: the psychology of violence, the impossibility of undoing terrible actions, the collision between power and love, the isolation of those who rule without restraint. In capturing this moment with such psychological precision and emotional intensity, Repin created an image that continues to haunt viewers nearly a century and a half after its creation. The painting also represents the apex of Russian realism's ambitions: to create art that engaged deeply with national history and contemporary concerns while maintaining the highest technical standards. Repin's ability to combine almost photographic detail with profound psychological insight set a standard that influenced generations of Russian artists. The painting demonstrated that realism need not mean mere surface accuracy, but could probe the depths of human experience. Today, when visitors stand before this painting in the Tretyakov Gallery, they witness not just a historical reconstruction, but a meditation on the nature of power, violence, and irreversible tragedy. The father's horrified eyes still stare out from the canvas, forever caught in that moment of realization, forever trying to take back what cannot be taken back. The son's blood still stains those magnificent carpets, and the darkness still surrounds them, offering no escape, no redemption, no possibility of reversal, only the terrible permanence of what has been done and cannot be undone.